Welcome to Syndicated Nightmares, where each week we take a deep dive into an episode of Freddy's Nightmares based on the Nightmare on Elm Street film series. Today, hosts Dave and Michelle are covering Rebel Without a Car, which aired December 10th, 1988, written by Christopher Trumbo and directed by John Lafia.
Great.
How did you like this one?
I found the second half more interesting than the first.
That's funny, because I found the first half more interesting than the second.
Oh, all right.
Alex finds an abandoned muscle car to be his ticket out of Springwood. Instead, he keeps envisioning the face of the previous owner. Connie is determined to belong to a sorority, but the initiation process puts her through her own private hell. So the first part is about Alex finding an abandoned muscle car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and apparently it was his dream to own a muscle car, and I don't think he thought the car was going to get him out of Springwood per se, but as the episode progressed, he was just like, I'm getting out of Springwood, and this is the way I'm going to do it.
And then it was like, he really wants to get out of Springwood, and she wants to stay in Springwood.
Mm-hmm.
And I just sort of wanted to yell at them and be like, it's fine. You're you're 18 and you want to do different things. That's okay.
So Alex and Connie are dating, and they're both seniors in high school.
Yes.
Yeah. At the beginning of the episode, they're both seniors in high school. And I kind of got a T-Bird rivalry vibe from it, with wanting to race the cars, because there's
Yeah. What's that character's name? Balmudo in Greece?
Yeah, and that's pretty much what this episode was about, because Alex had beef with, I guess they're some muscle car gang, and they were just always picking on him, but they offered Alex an opportunity to join their muscle car gang, and Alex just didn't want to do it. But it seemed funny, well, why are you picking on him if you want him to join you guys?
That's a good point.
So Alex finds this abandoned muscle car on the side of the road, and he decides to tow it to his house, and he's going to fix it up because he is coincidentally working at Beefy Boy to be able to buy his muscle car, and he realized minimum wage in 1988 is not going to buy you any type of Ford Mustang, and he lucks out and finds an abandoned one on the side of the road, so he decides to fix it up instead of buying a new one for himself. And it seems to go pretty well for him. In a montage, in 10 seconds, he takes that clunker and turns it into this awesome car.
Yeah, although I think from the dialogue it was a few months that he was working on it, or a couple months.
That's right, because in those 3 months he had stopped going to school, he quit his job, and he basically left his girlfriend because all he wanted to do was fix the car. Right,
and his dad, gets mad at him, and then the dad walks off and he says, "Where's Ward Cleaver when you really need him?" But it's I don't think Ward Cleaver would be you don't have to go to school, just hang out and work on the car.
I'm pretty sure Ward Cleaver would tell him to stop working on the car and, do his homework and go to school. But
yeah,
I don't know. But again, it's another parent-child relationship where they don't really seem to like one another or get along. Typical Springwood.
Mm-hmm. And what's the legality of just taking an abandoned car?
I thought that was kind of odd as well. I don't think it falls under the finders keepers rule, but in order for him to be able to register that car, he would have to have a title, and he would be able to file a new title, but he would have to show some type of purchase order. Or if he got it from the junkyard could write something up for him and say, he bought it from us. But so there's nothing legal for him just to be able to get a car on the side of the road, even if it is abandoned, it's still not his property. Like, it can't properly be transferred over to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that too. I thought that was strange. Like, well, wow, that's rather ballsy of you to just take this car that's abandoned on the side of the road. So also, when I was watching this episode, in the first half, I got a strong Freddy's Dead vibe from it.
Oh, because it's about trying to leave the town?
Yeah, and just from the beginning, at the beginning of the episode, when Alex is driving down the road, he basically like almost runs straight into a welcome to Springwood sign. And
yes,
you know, that it looks very much like the one in Freddy's Dead, but this one says the Springwood sign says, if you lived here, you'd be home by now. But the one in Freddy's Dead says, Springwood, a nice place to live. With the population that's very low because, you know, Freddy's killing everybody. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so just from there, I got Freddy's Dead vibe from it, basically off that sign, and that how you said Alex is trying to get out of the town, and no matter how hard he tries, he just can't get past that welcome to Springwood sign.
And his look, he kind of reminded me of Joey from Nightmare 3.
Because he's rocking that mullet, yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's it.
He did have really good hair, so I mean, it just happens to be in a mullet, which was the style in '88, so can't really knock him for it. But yeah, he had really good hair.
And he also looked a little, in the face, he looked a bit like Hayden Christensen.
Oh, so. Yeah, he did. Well, and then you also mentioned that his girlfriend, Connie, that she looks a lot like Jessie Spano, Elizabeth Banks' character in Saved by the Bell, and she did very much so. And I also saw the side characters, who was just like in Beefy Boy for 10 seconds. She looked a lot like Kelly Kapowski from Saved by the Bell.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought she did. So I was like, oh, hey, are they just trying to get people who look like the actors from a popular TV show, you know, to...
I don't think it was on yet.
Saved by the Bell?
Yeah, I thought it started in 89.
Did it? Oh, I thought Saved by the Bell was a lot earlier. I thought it was like mid-80s.
There was the Good Morning Miss Bliss with Haley Mills, but that didn't have Kelly and Jesse on it.
Oh, no, Kelly and Jesse didn't come until way later on. Saved by the Bell started in 1989, so no, they didn't even have Saved by the Bell yet.
So maybe Jessie Spano, the character, was based on this. So this random Saved by the Bell trivia. But I think the story is Elizabeth Berkley was one of the finalists for the role of Kelly, and they liked her so much that they then created the part of Jessie.
She did such a good job as Jessie Spano.
She was great.
And then Showgirls happened, and I don't know what the hell.
Oh, I love Showgirls.
That's the best movie to break away from her Jessie Spano role. So no one thinks of her as Jessie Spano anymore.
Oh, she's great. I love her. But this actress, Katie Barberi, I recognize her as the lead from the Garbage Pail Kids movie, which is another guilty pleasure.
He fixes up this muscle car and drives it all around town, and it seems like Alex and his girlfriend Connie have that like typical young love storyline where one wants to go to college and the other either can't afford college or can't get into college, so he's just like, oh, you go to college and I'll get a job nearby and we'll live in an apartment together and everything will be great. It just seems like that's a very common storyline for high school sweethearts.
That probably would not have worked out so well if it had happened.
No, not at all. But him being a mechanic, I mean, he would be able to get a job anywhere that he went to. So he definitely has job security, and it could have worked out possibly, but I don't know. The way that they set it up, I don't think that they had much of a future together.
And it just felt through every conversation you get the vibe that they're not, they just want different things and they're not right for each other, but they keep, trying to make each other feel guilty. And, at one point I was like, I wrote in my notes, like, don't give up your full scholarship, Connie, because he's trying to convince her to move out to California with her.
And I don't know what the appeal for with California is. But I guess if he wants to move to California, it's safe to assume that Freddy's Nightmares is not taking place in California.
Right.
They haven't really given a state, but I guess we can cross California out. I wrote in my notes that this boyfriend isn't as supportive as Lori Petty's boyfriend in Killer Instinct, so...
That's true, yes.
I think that was our one and only supportive boyfriend / healthy relationship that we're going to get in this series.
Quite possibly, yeah.
I'm going over my notes, and I marked down that Springwood in this episode isn't a hick town, but it seems to be like a heavy metal hair band town. Because everybody, like, all of the bullies and everybody that he's hanging out with has like this glorious heavy metal rocker hair. And, you know, it's all teased out and long, and they look like they should be in a heavy metal band.
And then in the second half, we get into like the Springwood upper class that's really difficult to break into.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not, definitely not a hick town.
Okay, yeah, so Alex has this muscle car, and kind of weird how the episode goes. It's very, is this a dream or not a dream? I felt that it kind of had that format to it. I also wrote down in my notes that by now it's clear that there's a format to all of these episodes where the first storyline, the main character dies, and then for the second half of the storyline, it follows whatever secondary character from the first half.
Yes.
It's not a surprise anymore when the character from the first half doesn't make it, because you're kind of like expecting it already. The whole going back and forth from dream to reality, I was like, oh, here we go again. It's just another same format of it.
I mean, my take on the episode was that he found the car and brought it home and worked on it, and that was real. But then he's sort of haunted by I guess, did we talk about that someone died in that car? That's why it was abandoned?
Yeah.
And so he's haunted by that, and that's what triggers the nightmares.
Yeah, the episode didn't really show that very well. I thought that the previous owner had died, because as Alex is driving this car around town, the previous owner, like his ghostly figure, like zombie figure, just pops up here and there and will say like, you can never get out of Springwood, and like taunts him because the previous owner knows that Alex wants to get out of Springwood. So he kind of taunts him that you're never going to get out. So, and that's basically what happens with him.
Right. He never does get out.
So, I don't know what his name is in this episode, the bully guy, who the Balmuto type guy. Whatever. Yeah. So he challenges Alex to a game of chicken, and I kept calling it Thunder Road because that's what they call it in Greece. So it's like,
oh really?
Yeah. So he was invited to go down to Thunder Road and race for pink slips, and it was just all over like a game of chicken. Yeah,
when he said like my machine against yours, I thought they were going to race, but playing chicken is not
racing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really, like, you could play chicken in a clunker. It's not really about how great the car is.
Yeah, because chicken is more about guts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that didn't make sense to say that they were gonna like my machine versus yours, because it was more like my courage versus yours, or my stupidity versus yours.
Right, exactly.
Really. Yeah. Chicken is just about stupidity, not bravery.
Right.
Yeah, so they go down to this like Thunder Road and they play a game of chicken. The mean guy turns before Alex does. So apparently Alex is the winner. But I didn't understand what he was going to win, because when they were talking about, like, what do I get if I win? The mean guy was like, my car for your girl, or something like that.
Oh, good point. Yeah, Alex really doesn't have anything at stake. Or, I mean, he has stuff to lose, but he doesn't have anything to gain from it.
Yeah, he was just going to get the guy's car, but... Okay.
But what's he going to do with the second car if he's leaving for California?
Well, maybe he could sell it, and that way he has, like, some gas money to get to California. Because we'll just assume that Springwood is in Ohio, and you know the drive from Ohio to California, that's 3 or 4 days, right?
I do. Yeah. Oh, but then it turns out he died, and he was like a double death. The car fell on him, and the garage was full of carbon monoxide.
So after Thunder Road, when he wins the game of chicken, the girlfriend goes to his house to meet up with him or something, and she opens the garage door, and all of this carbon monoxide starts spilling out. And it turns out that while he was just fixing the car, it fell on top of him, crushed him, but I don't think it killed him. I think it just pinned him under there, and then he wasn't able to get out, and he died of asphyxiation from carbon monoxide poison.
Oh, that's an awful way to go.
It is an awful way to go. And then so the girlfriend starts screaming, and the dad comes out, and they're trying to lift this car off of him, and it's I think you guys are too late. It's not gonna work.
And then he tries, and then it's oh, but he gets to leave Springwood in the afterlife. But then Freddy smashes the car.
And I guess the whole story was you can't get out of here, so don't even try.
So yeah, that's very depressing. What I found funny about this first half of the episode was all the scenes with him and Connie. She's eating at Beefy Boy, and he comes in and finds her. So it happens 3 or 4 times, and so I wrote in my notes Connie's at Beefy Boy again, underlined. They don't change it up at all. That's just, Connie has every meal at Beefy Boy, apparently.
Yeah, so I liked this first half only because I love muscle cars. So I just liked it from the car, watching all the cars and the drag racing, even though it was a game of chicken. I only liked it because of that. And if I was watching this when I was 9 years old in 1988, I would have thought this was the coolest episode ever.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's why I liked it. I just liked it because of the cars.
I think what I didn't like was just the dynamic between Alex and Connie, that it was just painful to see them having the same conversation over and over again.
Yeah, that's true. There wasn't much depth to the characters or their relationship.
And it's clear that they should each go do their own thing.
Yeah, but if they're in a small town, it's really hard to break away from the one person who actually gets you or likes you. So
yeah, I
can understand why it would be difficult for them to break up. But she wanted to stay there, and he wanted to leave for California. So I don't understand what the commonality was in their relationship.
Right. Yeah, under no circumstances should she leave her full ride at Springwood U.
No, not at all. Oh, and a side note, I wrote down the car club that Alex was invited to be a part of is called Springwood Car Club.
Oh, nice. So there's a scene, one of the scenes where she's eating at Beefy Boy, and he comes in and she's with, I think, 2 other girls. And he says, did I embarrass you in front of your college friends? So from that, I got the impression that she had already started at Springwood U. But then when we get to the second half, it's it's her first day.
That was kind of confusing because it seemed in those 3 months that he had kind of abandoned her to work on the car. They had graduated high school, had a summer, and then she went off to college. So that didn't make sense at all. So yeah, we see her on her first day of college when the second part of the episode begins. And she is trying to get into Omega Kappa Pi. Is that an actual sorority?
I don't know. And she has this dream sequence where she's in a Cinderella at the ball dress.
Oh, I wrote Cinderella down too. As well. It had a kind of a Cinderella vibe to it. How she was always cleaning house, and the sorority sisters were her mean stepsisters ordering her around.
Yeah. Exactly.
Second half of the episode is Connie is trying to get into Omega Kappa Pi, and the members there seem very, very stuck up. It seems like a very upper class sorority to belong to. So much that the head person, whatever...
Lydia.
Yeah, Lydia, whatever her title is at Omega Kappa Pi, she said she was making a comment about Connie's lack of income and how she really didn't fit into not the poverty line, but how she didn't fit into their social class. She made a comment that says racial and ethnic diversity are in the dorm rooms, but not in the sorority room. She was basically saying like, and she actually said racial and ethnic diversity, you would want to go to the dorms for that. And it's like, are you just admitting that you only let white people in? Because that's terrible.
I think she was. I wrote in my notes, Lydia is mean and racist.
Yeah, she is. She very much is.
But yeah, she's very like dismissive of everything about Connie.
Mm-hmm.
That like I guess Connie worked at Burger Boy apparently, and she went to a public high school and she's there on a full scholarship.
And it's like all these things that she's ragging on her for are actually really good qualities to have. Like, she has strong work ethic. If she started working at such a young age, she understands responsibility. And okay, so she went to a public school, but obviously she was really smart if she's getting a full ride to Springwood University. So why that is a negative on her, like, that's not cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's because her, if she were from a super rich family, they would have sent her to a private school. But still, yeah, it's shouldn't be a mark against her.
No, it shouldn't.
I'd let her into the sorority.
So Lydia basically tells her that she isn't welcome to join the sorority because she doesn't fit in with the type of people that they like to associate themselves with. But then we find out that the sorority is actually in financial jeopardy. And so the plot thickens, and Lydia has an idea to invite Connie back.
That now Connie is going to be... It's because the sorority's not diverse enough, so if they invite Connie, then they have some diversity. Was that the plan?
I didn't understand how inviting Connie to live with them or to be one of their sisters was going to get them out of financial ruins, unless, so the one head lady, their financial advisor, basically said that that the sorority couldn't afford a chef and a maid anymore. So they had to fire the chef and the maid, and so the sorority sisters didn't want to have to clean up or cook for themselves, so then they invited Connie to be in the sorority so she could cook and clean for them and basically treat her like Cinderella.
Yes. One of the sorority sisters was Diana Barrow, who was Maddie in Friday the 13th Part 7, who I loved in that movie. Like, I feel so bad for her. Like, she's so sweet and she gets all dolled up. Yeah.
And then she gets
my heart goes up because she likes the hot guy, and her friend is like, you're never going to get a guy like that. And so she gets herself all dolled up, and you feel so bad for her because the guy's probably going to reject her anyway, but it doesn't get to that point because she gets killed.
Aww. Man, Jason ruins everything.
Does. But so she was so nice in that, and she's so, I mean, I guess it's a testament to how good an actress she is, but her character was just awful in this. She was so mean. So
the sorority sisters invite Connie over for a sit-down dinner to introduce her to the financial advisor. Just basically like, hey, we have this new girl that's starting, and she's poor, so look how diverse we are. Mm-hmm. As they're going through the dinner, even the financial advisor is talking about all the rules that the sorority has, like what they started at dinner parties, and she was like, the sorority has been around for 60 years, and we started the rule that the head woman always drinks a glass of wine first so the guests know it's not being poisoned.
It was a really bizarre conversation. And then I was actually, because there's all this sorority stuff going on, and you kind of forget that you're watching a Nightmare on Elm Street show, or that you're watching a horror show. So when all of a sudden the advisor stabs one of the girls in the head with a fork, and it startled me because
I was like, yeah, where did that come from? Yeah, she was talking about the reason why they sit in certain seats around the table is so like the head person doesn't sit at the head of the table. They actually sit on the side of it. So if the guest had plans to kill the head person, it would be harder for them, and they'd have to reach over the table and stab them. And so that's what the financial advisor does. She just reaches over the table with a butcher's knife and just like stabs her in the head with it. And it turns out that it's, a day terror or whatever that Connie's having. It's not actually real. So I wrote down in my notes, what kind of fucked up sorority rules do they have? Like,
right.
This place is crazy.
And then did you notice that the advisor just gets up and leaves, and she says, well, this has been great, blah, 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 I'm off to such and such, but they didn't serve any food. She leaves without eating anything.
So yeah, so we learned that it's all a facade, having Connie in the sorority, and but the sorority sisters decide to have a little fun with Connie and make her do like these really weird tasks around the house, mop the floor, not really mop the floor, but clean the floor with her toothbrush, and then so clean the floor with her toothbrush, serve them breakfast in bed, and take all the thorns off a rose that she is serving with the breakfast in bed. So very strange tasks that they're having her do.
Yeah, and they're pretty brutal to her.
Oh, and then they accuse Connie of stealing a pearl necklace that belonged to one of the sorority sisters. So they have a little sit down with her and accuse her of stealing this necklace. If Connie doesn't fess up to stealing the necklace, then they're going to call the police.
Yes, and she calls their bluff. She says, I'm not going to do anything that will keep me out of this sorority.
What's so great about this sorority that she's willing to go through hell and high water to stay in it?
So she has that conversation with the random friend who's only in one scene about... She's like Connie thinks of herself as being from the wrong side of the tracks, but she wants to create this great life for herself in Springwood. So to do that, she needs the sorority to put her into the upper class, I guess.
But it just seems like there's an easier way to get ahead in life, you know?
Yeah, I mean, get a job that will go into a career where you'll make a lot of money. Seems like a better strategy.
Yeah, that's the more simpler way of doing things. So she is basically like, I didn't steal that necklace and I'm not fessing up to it. Call the cops. I don't care. I'd rather be in prison and be a Omega Kappa Pi than have my freedom and not be an Omega Kappa Pi.
Well, and also she didn't do it, so she was just standing up for herself.
And yeah, so we find out that she definitely didn't steal it because after Connie storms out of the room, the sister who owns the pearl necklaces like pulls them out and she's like, ha ha ha, joke's on her. They weren't really missing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the sisters have one more task for Connie to do before they're basically done having their fun with her.
Yeah, and this was really messed up. So they're all in a car together, and first of all, they're making fun of the fact that her most recent boyfriend is dead. And then, so they say, it says you only have to do it with one guy, but they don't specify what it is. And then they basically send her into a dark alley dressed like a prostitute.
So I think it's very safe to say that her final task is to prostitute herself to at least one man in a dark alley.
And then it's not clear. And then she sort of comes back is like badass ready for revenge. So it's like,
I wasn't sure what happened to her in the dark alley because she's like walking down the alley, basically I think deciding, can I do this, can I not do this? And then some random punk comes out of nowhere and like, does he punch her or does he just grab her?
I'm not sure.
I think he just grabs her and then it cuts to a commercial break, so you don't really know what happened because when it comes back, they're back in the sorority house and the one girl who's in Friday the 13th, she's like sitting in the kitchen making herself a sandwich out of an entire turkey. Mm-hmm. And Connie comes in and basically just goes on a killing spree. And I don't really blame her for doing that at this point.
Is the implication that something so horrible happened to her in that alley that it changed her?
I think so, because when she came back, it looked like she had a black eye or she had been punched in the face or something. So I want to say like she was probably sexually assaulted in that alley, and just because it was 1980s and on TV they couldn't really show it, so they just heavily implied it. That's what I got from it, that she was assaulted in some way, and so then she was just like, F this sorority.
I mean, it was a really screwed up thing for them to do to her.
Oh, it was terrible.
She could have been killed.
That's why I don't really blame her for going on a killing spree, because I think now she's just in this like PTSD rage where it's fight or flight, and she just decided to defend herself and kill everybody.
And she does it in a like poetic justice-y way. Like the girl who accused her of stealing the pearl necklace, she strangles her with that necklace. And then Lydia was the one who wanted her to dethorn the roses, and she ends up getting impaled on a bed of thorns.
Which I thought that was a pretty cool death scene. The thorns were heightened a bit. They were overgrown. So it was more like a bed of spikes than a bed of thorns. But I really liked that depth scene. I thought that was a very clever.
Yeah, that was great. And then she has the Cinderella dream again, but everybody's dead.
It turns out that during the Cinderella dream, she goes into like this dark room where everybody is dead in a chair, and she goes up to an altar to like say her sorority prayer, which is like, I solemnly swear that I will always be true to my sisters, or something like that. Then it shows that the sorority just like burns down for no reason.
And she's the only survivor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the financial advisor comes back because she was on her way to like meet Connie there to congratulate her for being inducted into the sorority. So on her way there, she sees that it's up in flames, and a firefighter finds an unconscious Connie in the kitchen, and he brings her out into the living room. She wakes up, and the financial advisor is like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're alive." And Connie was like, "Yeah, I'm so glad that I'm a Omega Kappa Pi now." I kind of felt bad for her because the financial advisor is like, "No, you're not. Sorry."
Right.
You went through all of that for nothing. And so I think Connie at that point is like about to have a nervous breakdown because she went through all of that and still got nothing.
But she killed everyone. So.
She did kill everybody.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, I think all the bodies are like burnt up and charred, so they probably won't be doing an autopsy on them, so she's going to get away with it.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting is this story, like, it doesn't even need, like, the nightmare aspect. It's pretty straightforward that they trick her into coming into the sorority, even though they're never going to let her be a member, and treat her like crap, and then they take it too far, and, something terrible happens to her, and then she comes back and kills them.
Yeah, this story didn't really need any elements of Freddy for it to progress forward. The first half did with the car and all that. But yeah, this half, no, it could have completely been a standalone with all Freddy aspects taken out of it. I don't think, Freddy wasn't really involved that much in the last half, except he did have a guest spot in her underwear drawer. He like popped out of her underwear drawer to give one of his one-liners, and then he like sunk back. So that's Freddy for you.
And he wasn't in the first part that much either, because Alex is being haunted by the ghost of the guy who owned that muscle car. Mm-hmm. So it's more Eddie Dugan is the guy haunting him, not Freddy. Yeah.
Both of the storylines really didn't need that much of Freddy in order for it to progress all the way through. I mean, it's a good thing, except this is a show about Freddy Krueger, so you should probably have the main character involved.
Right. I guess they only had him for a day or so.
But we forgot to mention that the director, John Lafia, he directed and wrote Child's Play 2.
Oh, he wrote it as well?
Yeah, that's what IMDb says, that he directed and wrote it. So we are back to having someone who has horror roots to them.
I love Child's Play 2. It's a great movie.
Well, you like it because it has Christine Elise in it. Is that her name? Yeah, that's why you like it.
It's a good movie on its merits as well, but it's wonderful that Emily Valentine is in it. And then, so the last line of the episode, when Freddy comes back, he says, I rewound it a couple times because I wasn't sure I heard it right, but he says, if you can't join them, rush them.
Roast them.
Oh, roast them. Okay, thank you.
And that line made me think of like the roast of Bruce Willis or Demi Moore or whoever. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be great if there was like a roast of Freddy Krueger, and Robert Englund dressed up as Freddy just got on the stage, and like Jason came out and Michael Myers comes out and they just roast him. I think that would be hilarious. It would never happen because neither of those characters talk, but it would be really funny, and that's what made me think of it.
That would be pretty great.
So what did you think of this episode overall?
Not great. I liked when Connie comes back and takes her revenge on the sorority girls.
Yeah.
But it was, honestly, I thought this episode was a bit of a mess.
I kind of agree with that. I only liked the first half because I like muscle cars, but other than that, I didn't really care for it for like plot wise and character development and all that. I didn't really care for it.
And they seem to, the show keeps seems to keep making up, which I guess is fine because they've got episodes to fill, but they keep making up new things about Springwood.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's also this whole, super rich country club
Yeah.
class of people who are native to Springwood.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if they didn't have to fill 22 episodes worth of content, if they just did like 13 episodes, it would have been a lot better. The series as a whole would have been a lot better. And maybe they would have more of Robert Englund involved because his time commitment wouldn't be as much.
But I guess that wasn't really 13 episode seasons weren't really a thing back then.
No, not at all. That's like a pretty recent thing. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So I think it definitely would have worked with Freddy's Nightmares.
Mm-hmm. But I did like the idea in the first half of the guy who just really wants to leave and keeps trying to drive out of there, and it's just not working.
I think we can all relate to that, especially growing up in a small town. If you're just like, I just got to get the heck out of here, and everything, all odds are against you.
Yeah, I remember growing up, and I was like, as soon as I graduate high school, I'm moving away, and I did.
Yeah.
But now, like looking back, I'm like, oh, it would have been a nice place to stay.
Oh, in Columbus, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm in California, but Columbus is a nice place.
Yeah, it's one of the rare cities in Ohio, I think, that people actually enjoy living in. So yeah, I could appreciate the episode for that part of the storyline. I guess I could relate to it a little bit. Okay, so do you have anything for next week?
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Please come back next week when we talk about Season 1, Episode 10, The Bride Wore Red, where Freddy teaches us all about marital fidelity.